The relationship between Tsimshian women of the forest industry presented by Karen, Samson, and Danielle. The Tsimshian people occupy territory on British Columbia's northwest coast and have done so for millennia. Since the establishment of Fort Simpson in 1834, they have become involved in forestry, and the women in particular have played an interesting and constantly evolving role in this industry. When Fort Simpson was established, the white residents of the fort were afraid of the Tsimshian peoples outside. While the HBC hired Tsimshian men to cut wood for them, they would not allow them into the fort. Instead, they had the Tsimshian women bring the firewood inside. They also hired the women to cut wood for them during the fishing season when most of the men were away. When sawmills were established in the late 19th century, they caused an increase of hand logging, which provided more work opportunities for the women. It was their job to trim the logs, make booms, drive their boats, and prepare food for the men felling the trees. Thanks to hand logging, Tsimshian peoples could bring in money to buy things such as gas and supplies for fishing. However, that all changed in the 1950s. Large logging companies began monopolizing timber claims in the region, shifting the process to an industrial one, and resulting in large swaths of clear-cut land. This meant fewer resources for the Tsimshian peoples, and their company's refusal to hire women almost completely excluded Tsimshian women from the logging industry. Instead, they made up the majority of workers in the North Coast salmon canneries. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, there was a massive growth in capitalism. However, without three key features, this growth would not have been possible. These features are: 1, the appropriation of indigenous land and resources by foreign investors and settlers; 2, the transformation of independent indigenous workers into wage laborers; and 3, the degradation of indigenous values, practices, and beliefs. In the case of the Tsimshian peoples, one practice that came under attack by Euro-Canadians was their practice of matrilineal descent. The idea of becoming part of the mother's group and remaining so did not fit in with the Euro-Canadians' patriarchal model, so they decided it had to be changed. And through their assimilationist policies, most effectively delivered by the residential schools, they succeeded. Despite the fact that the Tsimshian had traditionally valued the labor of both genders, and that women continued to work for wages outside of the home, many Tsimshian people internalized the idea of the male breadwinner. Since the beginning, the Tsimshian people have played a key role in the development of forestry in northwestern BC. And despite the obstacles set in their way, Tsimshian women in particular have contributed significantly through forestry to the income of their communities. With recent changes, they might even be given more opportunities for employment.